If you needed any other possible, now I want to make this clear, just because it's a patent doesn't mean jack squat. You know, Sony patented a way to make games advertised to you, to interrupt the game for advertisement. But have they implemented that yet? No. But this just adds more fuel to the fire of what we already knew was going to happen, that there would be some sort of retrofit or redesign or something or other, and so this could be something, this could be nothing. I want to make that abundantly clear because I don't want people thinking that I'm like, oh my god, they may filed a patent, Sony's gonna do this or Sony's gonna do that. No. Although I think at times talking out against this stuff can actually have a positive effect on the industry as a whole. I think some of these people, they file these things, some of them hope to implement these things, but when they hear the backlash, they kind of back off because they realize, oh crap, we're probably shooting ourselves in the foot here. Although apparently with next gen, so much is going to be going on that I don't agree with. But again, most of this is supposedly leaked information, but is to be treated as rumor until proven true. But I don't know. I just don't feel bad about missing out on next gen because I don't really see it as missing out. But okay, so topic at hand. Patent application points to new PS Vita with HDMI and USB. Now, they had ways with the PSP that you could out it to a TV using RBG cables. And, you know, that people liked that feature. It was like a, what do you call that? Like a Super Game Boy, or what was the, or Super Game Boy, I think it was called, or the GameCube module that you could fit, where you could also play Game Boy Advance games on your GameCube via this little thing that the little module that the GameCube sat on, since it had an expansion port. An expansion port, by the way, that was supposed to also house eventually a modem, but, you know, Nintendo and online. Need I say more? So that at least the HDMI makes sense, but the USB, I'm not entirely sure I get that unless it's a way to directly link the PS3 with the Vita, because anybody who bought the cross-controller DLC for Little Big Planet 2 knows how much of a pain in the ass that thing was to sync up, and certainly made that DLC not worth the price of purchase. There's still people bitching about how terrible the connectivity was between the PS Vita and the PS3 when it came to the cross-control DLC. So I could see them trying to make workarounds. Of course, I would love it if this patent, although I haven't read this full article yet, also specified some sort of internal memory and maybe having two accounts on one frickin' machine, but you know, wishful thinking, right? That would make too much sense, and we can't have that now, can we? So, let me get back to this one. A patent application filed last year describes a new PlayStation Vita configuration which includes HDMI and USB support. The application was published on February 7th. That image above was included in the filing and dated July 27th. Sony, of course, has an event scheduled for February 20th at which the next PlayStation console is expected to be formally revealed. It's some conference called, like, What's Next for PlayStation, if I remember correctly. If there's a new handheld configuration, it could be announced there as well. We've reached out to Sony to ask if they have any comments on the upcoming Vita formats. So that it could make sense too. They might not just be talking about the future of PlayStation 4 if they're going to talk about it. They keep dancing around the whole idea, and that there's this whole, well, we're waiting for Microsoft to announce theirs, you know. if they show us theirs, we'll show us ours kind of thing. But, you know, everybody's saying, well, they're trying to push the next gen out the door this year, Microsoft included, which I think would be, it would be in line with what devs want, because devs, to be honest with you, they're the main force boo-hooing about this gen of consoles. If you read article after article, as I have, of people who are just like, I'm not wanting to buy a new machine, especially not a an expected price tag of a $400 machine. But to add in the idea that maybe a newer, better designed Vita is out there, I mean, can we say that we are surprised by this? How many iterations of the PSP were there? And no doubt, this uncrackable or hard-to-crack machine that Sony had crafted in the PS Vita so that developers would want to come to the handheld while treating us legally paying customers as if we are all potential criminals, was cracked fairly easily, at least in terms of being able to get it to run, at least until I'm sure it's been updated away so that that little hole in the security has been patched. But there was a time where if it wasn't for some hackers' egos, we would have at least had a way that we could have played a PSP emulators on the PS Vita, in which case you're not having to, in some cases, rebuy your PSP games that were not purchased digitally, so that you can play your PSP games. And again, there were some actually good titles on the PSP. Just saying. That instead of having to rebuy that and deal with that kind of bullshit, you can actually play the games that you own, albeit ones you've probably downloaded, and be able to basically play your games digitally on the Vita and have your PS Vita and your PSP library to go. And eventually that would have led to cracking the PS Vita so that you could play PS Vita games without paying for them, which, yeah. Anyways, the point is, I don't know. This wouldn't surprise me if this wasn't something that was actually something that they might use. It's not so much detrimental to the consumers, although it would be kind of a laugh in the face of us early adapters, although of course you already know, I traded in my PS Vita and put the money towards a Wii U, and I'm almost there in terms of my money for the Wii U. But, you know, so it is what it is, you know, but again, this is just a patent. Sony and Microsoft have filed rather disgusting patents in the past, none of which has come to fruition, although I'm hoping the Durango stuff does come to fruition. I'm hoping that they can actually make our rooms into a game environment and project it around us. I'm hoping that they can have computerized second player that is semi-projected. Obviously, you couldn't do it in standing light like this. Our holographics are just not there. We're not in the world of Star Wars yet, where we can have a hologram solidified in standing light. That doesn't mean that the technology is not still being worked on, not still being crafted. But, you know, it is what it is.